Good evening, everyone. My name is Carlia Swanson, and I'm Miss Fort Lauderdale. And I'm just super excited to be back again this week with our artist series. I am so excited to introduce my teacher, Dr. Darden Purcell, Director of Jazz Studies at George Mason University.
Hello, Carlia.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here too. Thank you for asking me.
So, Dr. P, it's a new year. So I was just wondering, do you have any New Year's resolutions?
That's a good question. Well, to get healthy, not saying I'm not healthy, but our New Year's resolutions are always, walk more, get healthy. Probably the biggest one is going to be find a good work-life balance, I think, for the new year.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Purcell, this is a very difficult time. And so in March, the world shut down. So where were you in that moment?
Well, actually, we were in Brazil. So we had planned to take about 20 people to Sao Paulo, Brazil on a grant that we had gotten through the George Mason Global Education Program. And about 24 hours before the trip was supposed to happen, the university, basically the virus was getting worse, and the university said no students can travel. So the faculty, 4 of us faculty, were able to get permission to still go on the trip and maintain our commitments. You know, we had a lot of gigs booked and we had a lot of educational things booked as well too. And at that time, Brazil was not that affected by the coronavirus. And I think we were all in a little bit of disbelief that this was happening anyway. So we went over to Brazil. And I believe it was the Wednesday or the Thursday when we were in Brazil. That's when the US government shut down all travel in from Europe. So we did our final gig at this jazz club there and decided it was time to get home. So we got home. We booked our travel one day early and got back to the States, basically kind of before everything broke loose or chaos in the DC airports. So that's where we were.
Wow, because I was on spring break during that time. That was one of the first times I decided not to go home for spring break. And then all of that, I was like, oh no, gotta get home.
Right.
So, Dr. Purcell, so you mentioned gigs that you had in Brazil. So what do you think the role of the arts is in a pandemic?
Well, I think the role is almost even more important during this pandemic than it is in normal life. I mean, the arts in normal life bring us together. It's the great communicator. It's kind of the great connector of the human spirit. But normally we get to do it live. We have that live organic energy. Obviously in the pandemic, we can't be together at all. So that's why things like what you're doing here and the online concerts, I personally think they're incredibly important because they're still helping us to connect on a human level since we can't really connect physically like we normally do. So yeah, I think they're still incredibly important.
So this time is very many challenges for music during this time. So what are some other creative ways you have used to combat those challenges?
That's a good question. Well, we've done a lot of things around the house. I mean, probably like everyone, right? When you're at home, you find things to do at home. It's been kind of fun because we've been able to do some things at home that we've been putting off for years because we've had maybe a little bit more time. So working on more things around the house, trying to spend a little bit more time with family. When we are able to see each other. My parents are in a retirement community right now. So there have been many times we haven't been able to see each other because they've had varying degrees of limited visitation. But when we could, that was nice too. Having a little bit more of a flexible schedule. I don't know what you think about this, but I think the online thing is kind of hard. It's flexible because you can kind of grab your coffee and roll into your office and start teaching, right? You don't have to get in a car and fight traffic and do all that. But it's not flexible either because you can find yourself working all day long. It's like there's not that end of the day, I'm going home now. It's the day just kind of continues. So I don't know. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it was great. So I was listening to this podcast and someone said these times are so difficult because where we go off to school and we do our schoolwork, we go to work and we do our work, and home is home. But now we're in all these different roles from home. So it makes it very difficult to be wife and teacher, all musician, all from home. So it makes it really difficult. So you've been at home a lot.
Yes.
And what have you learned about yourself in the quarantine?
That I really, well, I'm a very routine driven person. I have my routines, and this changed all the routines, So I had to create routines at the house. And I think also, just like what you were saying about your home too, that your home is kind of your sanctuary. Your home is where you go to get away from work, to get away from, things that are maybe not going well in your life. I think that's been hard to kind of connect or be at home and do all this work at home, and then still also step outside and realize this is my home, and I can put this away. I don't have to work constantly. Um, but I'm so excited to get back to school. I'm so excited to get out of my home for a while.
So, Dr. P, I know that you play guitar. You were younger, so have you had any hobbies that you had a chance to get back into?
No, and you know what, Carlia, I would say playing guitar when I was younger is a very, very loose statement right there. I did not play guitar. I held guitar I held it in a folk choir when I was younger. I can barely remember playing anything. Sean was funny. He found it in the basement of my parents' house. When we first started dating, I don't know, this could have been like 15 or 20 years ago. And he actually pulled it out of the case, and the strings were so tight, they were about ready to like explode. So, yeah, so I wouldn't say I play guitar, but hobbies around the house, no, just more walking, lots and lots of walking, and just trying to kind of maybe organize more things. I don't know. I don't have a lot of hobbies. Honestly, I'm kind of a boring person.
You're not boring. I put my drum set back up and I've been playing. I've been calling out Angel. I'm going to do a drum battle. It's going to be great.
Nice. Keep me posted.
I will. I'll tag you. So, Dr. Purcell, we're spending a lot of time online. We aren't really able to go out as much. So how would you say that your relationships have changed, whether friendships, anything?
I don't really know if they have changed that much. I don't feel like they've changed. I mean, I miss seeing people, I do have some friends, and we would like to go out to eat and go out to lunch. And obviously that has been less. It's probably that I don't go out to see people as much, just because people aren't doing that. So that's probably what's changed the most, but during the school year, it's kind of hard to do that anyway. So I don't think it's changed too much for me. Again, I'm kind of a boring person.
You're not boring. Stop saying that.
I am.
Yeah, I think it really shows us how important that relationships are. So I've been reaching out to more people and doing lots of Zoom calls and Zoom parties and really trying to keep that connection going.
That's good. That's really good.
So when this is all over, what do you look forward to?
Travel. Travel. So yeah, I just think just not being able to go anywhere is really, really hard. So, and Sean, without going into too many details, has really not been able to travel since, I don't know, sometime this summer. So, I mean, literally go nowhere. So, we're looking forward to traveling and getting out there again, spending more time with friends and family, and just, yeah, it's funny. Before the pandemic hit, I used to just pray for a day off, and a day where I didn't have to do my makeup, and a day where you could just live in pajamas and, watch TV and just look at the internet. And after this pandemic, I don't need any more of those days. So, yeah.
So I think what makes this is a really difficult time is that students, they often look for their teachers for guidance, assistance, but with this pandemic and the teaching, everyone's trying to figure it out as we go. So what have been some of the challenges you may have faced in the classroom?
Right. That's a great question. Well, I think the hardest challenge we have right now is that so much of our teaching would kind of happen in between the classes, or we're missing that camaraderie that we would have, where you have a class, but then a student would stop by your office, or a student, you might end up going out to lunch or going out to dinners. Like, we haven't been able to do any of that with the ensemble. So we're missing a lot of the morale building and the team building that we normally have in music. So I miss that, because now it's kind of, we get in, we do what we need to do, and we leave. So sometimes it feels like a lot of the fun has been kind of zapped out of it while we're all trying to stay safe. And then, of course, the same thing with online. When it's over, it's kind of over. Whereas before, you can have a little bit more flexibility and Yeah, just and getting to know your students on a more personal level. I think the pandemic and the online teaching has kind of, for me, it's hindered that more than normal in-person teaching.
Majoring in music is very difficult, and having those relationships really help you through it. And
Right.
so, what advice would you have for a student majoring in music?
Well, to try to keep up with your friends and peers as much as you can. Like what you said, you've reached out to people, you're doing Zoom calls, because you're right. It's that camaraderie and that collaboration that we all strive for. And this pandemic, with all the isolation, has taken that away from us. And that's probably one of the worst things I think you can take away from a musician. So I think it's just keeping up with your friends, doing whatever you can to stay connected and to collaborate, and just stay focused. It's almost like this pandemic has put us in a perpetual practice room, where it's like everyone's kind of on their own, working on their own thing, but there's never that moment where you actually get to be with other people and do what you've been working on. So I would say to students, any outlet that you can try to do that, do it.
Wow, that's great. So, moving on to the jazz vocal ensemble that you founded at George Mason University.
That you know a little thing about.
A little bit. Tell us about that experience, finding the group, directing the group.
Well, I'd say it's one of the greatest experiences of my life. I love it, and I love all the students who have come through it, and there have been many. I started it in 2014. I think might have been even 2013. There were 5 people in the group, including myself, and it was a volunteer group, and we just met when we could. We got through one or two songs. We sang on a concert that I think Jim Carroll was having. So, and then by the next fall, more people were interested in it, became an official class, and then we just kind of kept going with that. So it started as a volunteer group where we were lucky to meet once a week, to now, well, pre-COVID, meeting 3 days a week. And I think the largest it's gotten up to is about 16 people. So yeah, this semester we're going to have nine people, all different backgrounds, different majors, which is really great. So
exciting. So,
yeah.
Dr. P, I say that when I found the Mason Jazz program, I found a place to belong. And so I say that because when you're 18 years old and you go away from home, I think some people think, oh, this is a grown up, but you really need someone to kind of just guide you along the way and be there, and teachers that actually take the time and ask, how are you this? How's that going? And I think that's something that really makes you special, the Mason Jazz program special. So if you had to describe the Mason Jazz program, what would you say?
Oh, that's a tough question, Carlia. And thank you, by the way. Thank you. Gosh, that is a really tough question. I don't know. That's a really hard question. If I had to describe the program, I would like to say that, gosh, I'm having a hard time putting it into words.
Well, I think, Dr. Purcell, I think that you are the coach and Mason Jazz is going to the Super Bowl because how much you dedicate to the students, the great performance opportunities, the traveling opportunities, the many ensembles that you can take part of. And I think it's really a home away from home.
Oh, thank you. Well, there you go. There's our tagline, home away from home, So one thing I've always wanted in the program is for people to, I kind of like what you said, to feel like they belong, that they found a place where they're doing well in. You're not going to do well in it all the time. That's just part of life. You're going to have really good moments and moments that aren't so good. But I think I'm really proud of the program because of our students, and the students are great students, and they really care about one another, and they help each other. They help each other through the program. And I think that's really important. Life is hard enough. So,
so Dr. Purcell, you have many different types of students, some loud, some quiet. So what would you say your different teaching styles are?
Wow, you got some good questions here too. I don't know. I think I just try to, I guess in individual applied voice lessons, every student needs something different. It's not a one size fits all type of curriculum. That's not how I think it should be. And everybody is different. Everybody has different personalities. Everybody takes information in differently than the next person. So I think I just try to assess what works with the student and what doesn't work with the student. It doesn't mean I'm not hard on them. You know that. I mean, I can be hard on students, but I always want to be fair, and I always want to try to be nice, and I always want to do it in a way that they leave thinking I'm better for this. Not just, I just kind of got beaten down, for no reason. Like there's a reason for this. So I think an individualized approach for sure.
That's very true, Dr. P. So how did you get your start in music? Did you go?
Yeah, I did. I did. I started singing in church choirs, like you. And yeah, I started singing. I remember I had my first solo. I think it was in the second grade. It was on church, Go Tell It on the Mountain for Christmas Eve service. And my parents still have a very funny story about my little solo in children's choir. So, and then we went on to folk choir, and then I sang in high school. And when I went to college, and I always loved to sing, but I'd never thought of it as a career. I just kind of thought, I like doing this. And then I went to college, and I started out as a business major. And that did not go as well as I had wanted it to go. So, an 18-year-old, it's tough to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're 18 years old. So I started out as a business major, and I joined, long story short, I joined choir at the end of my freshman year. And the choir director is this wonderful man. His name is Dr. Kevin Fenton. And I believe he's down at Florida State University now. He's incredible choral director. And he said, you should audition for the music program. So I auditioned for the music program, and I met Lisa Ann Lyons and Chip McNeil and the jazz program, and they kind of put me on my way.
Oh, wow. That's great, Dr. P.
Yeah.
So what were some of your musical influences growing up?
Well, it's funny. Growing up, especially, I didn't really listen to a lot of jazz. My parents listened to jazz. They loved jazz. My dad went to the University of Maryland and used to go to down to Georgetown and see Charlie Bird, and so he really liked jazz. So does my mom as well too. But we listened to all sorts of music. We listened to country. We listened to kind of classic rock. We listened to. My parents were big Motown fans. So we had a lot of kind of contemporary music going on in our house. So I listened to a little bit of everything.
Oh, wow, that's great. So Dr. P, can you tell me about your experience in the Air Force Band and some of the cool celebrities you've met?
Yeah. Well, it was good. I mean, I was very lucky. I graduated school and I auditioned for one band in the summer, and I was fortunate enough to win that gig. And then it took so long to get the paperwork going that the DC band audition came up. And so I auditioned for that and was fortunate enough to get that gig. So I obviously went to the DC band, but it was great. It was really good. I wasn't always the best little airman, I have to say. I definitely have some people that I was a little ornery, maybe. I was so young. I know, it's shocking. I know, you're shocked. I was a little ornery. I was very young, in early 20s and in the military. And I was a little opinionated back then. So, but I had a great time. It really forced me to grow up very quickly, because I had a lot of people telling me it's time to grow up quickly. And so that was good. It's always good. We're all kind of the same, going through the same things at different times. And yeah, the coolest thing that really, we had a guest artist series at that base that they put on. And when I was younger, I really wanted to be a backup singer. That's really what I wanted to do. I never really wanted to be in the front spotlight. I just kind of wanted to sing in the background. And I thought I had a voice that blended well with people. So I thought that this is perfect for me. I don't have to be out there, but I can still do what I love. And so, yeah, we had a couple concerts with Shaka Khan. That was probably the biggest one. And that was amazing. Yeah, that was probably a highlight of my life. And there was even one song too. It's called Love Me Still, where it was just she and me. I was the only backup singer on it. Yeah. So that was very cool. And there were other artists that we backed up to, B.B. Winans, Rita Coolidge, kind of a few kind of older artists. But they were great, like really wonderful. And then we did a lot of traveling. Traveling was really good. A lot of touring was good. And I think I think the best thing about the Air Force for me is that I sang a lot of different styles. I wasn't just singing jazz. And so it kind of forced me to get together quite a bit of versatility, basically, which, even though I'm not singing as much of that now, it was perfect back then to really learn those skills. So
I have a secret, Dr. P. So there's a video of you singing with Shaka Khan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Seen a few times myself. Yeah.
You have to send that to me. I didn't even know that there was something out there. That's crazy.
Everything.
Yeah, that was crazy. It was like a rock concert. We came out there and, everybody's in their uniforms. And so you can't feel that artistic in a uniform, So we're all out there and we're kind of doing it. And all of a sudden, they started blowing like, what did they call it? Dry ice or smoke on the stage. And she comes out in this huge outfit that's all over the place. And man, the crowd just was like, whoosh, just like rushed to the front of the stage. So yeah, it was probably the closest to a rock concert I'll come to. So,
wow.
Yeah. And then on top of it, she sang her off. I mean, she's incredible. So it was amazing.
That is exciting. Dr. P. So when I was looking for a voice teacher, when I wanted to switch from piano to voice, I went through the School of Music website and I was looking through everything and I read all the bios and I was like, Shaka Khan, this is the teacher.
Shaka Khan.
Teacher for me. So Dr. P, you've lived in a lot of places. So what would you say is your favorite place that you have lived?
That's another good question. I mean, I liked all the places that we've lived for different reasons, Here is great. I mean, I would say probably here is my favorite because it's home. It's home. It's where I went to high school. The area pre-COVID has a ton of opportunities, tons of cities and tons of culture and tons of work and gigs. So this place is great. Nashville was great as well, too. I mean, it's, Nashville is Nashville. And that was I was exciting to live there at that time. Champaign-Urbana was wonderful. That was one of the most incredible artistic scenes that we had really ever been in. It was amazing how many people just loved the arts there, were huge supporters, dedicated supporters, would come out to every single gig. I think that's one thing that's different than living here. Here is so big. People have hundreds, thousands of things to do. In that small town, there was only a couple things to do. So you really were able to get to know your audience and kind of cultivate a following and friendships with people there. So I think every place we've lived has had interesting and good aspects to it.
True. Dr. Purcell.
Yeah.
I'll stop saying it like that. So you have 2 albums, Easy Living and Where Does the Blue Begin? So what was your approach? What was the creative process like for both of those?
Well, normally Sean and I decide to do an album and then we I might already have songs in my repertoire that I'm thinking I really love singing this song. So I would definitely, I know I want to do this. You just have certain songs that you love to sing more than others. They feel good to you. They kind of roll off the tongue. The range is good. Like just everything about it, you feel like I enjoy this. So sometimes it starts with having some of that material in your head. For the last CD, it was really interesting. I worked with a piano player up in Baltimore. His name is Tommy Joy. And he's a great singer. He's sort of along the vein of a Frank Sinatra, but he's so talented and he's really a historian as well too. Like I would do gigs with him and I would show up and he would give me like 4 or 5 CDs. He's probably given me about 20 CDs where he's like, you should check out this person. Have you checked out this singer? Have you checked out this singer? He really is a wealth of knowledge because he's been doing it so long. He plays and he sings. And so he hipped me to this song for the last CD called This Bitter Earth. And he's like, have you heard this song? Dinah Washington did it. I think you'd sound really good on it. You should check it out. So it was really that one song that kind of built that album. Because then we decided for Easy Living, I just picked a whole bunch of songs that I liked. And I just thought a whole bunch of songs. For this one, I wanted a more thematic approach to the album, but I didn't want it to box me into everything about the moon, everything about this, love, everything about, I wanted it to be sort of a generalized theme, if that could be. So then we started thinking of, since it was This Bitter Earth, of just songs about either earth or moon or sky or anything. And also another big thing to me is I didn't want it to always have it in the title. I wanted some of the theme to be within the song, within the lyrics. So that way it still was part of the thread, but it wasn't so obvious, in fact, that's where the title, Where the Blue Begins, is I think that's part of the Stairway to the Stars song. So, and we like that because it was kind of opening it up to a lot of things. But that album actually all started with that one song, This Bitter Earth. And then for both albums, once we decide songs, then Sean and I get to work. And I really mean Sean gets to work on arrangements for it. So I might have some concepts in my head of, I think I want to do this way. Sean will have the same thing too, where he's like, well, what do you think about this? How would you like to do it this way? Sometimes it's funny. It's funny how that process works with us. Because on the first album, I had it in my head. I wanted to do Will You Still Love Me, the Carole King tune. And I wanted to do it as a ballad. I'd heard it on an album, another beautiful album. It was actually by Ann Hampton Calloway. She did it. And I just thought, wow, this is just such a beautiful way to do the song. I want to do it like this. And then Sean came up with this great arrangement that had this beautiful bass line. And he played it to me the first time. And I was like, I don't like it. I was like, what are you doing? I don't like it. I know, because I had something else in my head so much that was hard for me to get out of it. But we went with it. We went with it just because, and now it's like one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite arrangements he's ever written. It's so incredibly beautiful. So one thing I learned through these two processes is to not get locked in on exactly how you want to do something. Let the process organically kind of go. And when two people are doing it as well too, you kind of bounce ideas off of one another. But I have to say I'm very, very lucky because I have a brilliant husband who is an amazing writer and writes a lot of great arrangements. So I kind of, once we decide on things, I just kind of let him go. So.
Wow, that's great, Dr. Pete. So yeah. What would you say your mission is as an artist?
Wow, Carlia, these are great questions. I know this might sound a little bit of cliche, but I really feel strongly that the arts are, in my mind, should bring joy to people. That's how I want to approach it. I know, there might be other art forms that want to invoke other emotions or whatnot, but for what I'm doing, I would like to bring a little bit of joy to people, to move them on an emotional level. I think that's what I would want to do, whether they feel great about it, they're happy, whether, a ballad brings them to tears. I just think I'd like to try to move them emotionally, because I think that's why I'm drawn to the arts. Like, I'm drawn to beautiful music that moves me, or dance or theater. I think that's what we all want. I'll just say this. What I want from the arts is to be taken away from my everyday life and to be moved. And so I think that's probably my mission, is just to try to be a part of that,
That's great, because I feel like it's two sides. So the first thing is, like, for me, you can be kind of down and then you get on stage and you perform, and after that you feel better. Or like when you go into an audience and it's kind of somber and then you perform and then the room just becomes lively. So it's like a, music for people, music for
me. Right. Music for unity, right? Or unity is music. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's, I don't know. I think it's one thing that I've wanted to not get too engaged in is, what is this doing for me? I think that's a dangerous cycle that maybe people can get into, of me. This art is about me. It always is, the artist is the vehicle. But I feel like that's what I kind of, the older I get, the more I want is, I'm hopefully the vehicle to try to bring something to members of the audience, good or bad.
So Dr. P, we're going to have some fun.
Okay.
So, NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
Well, okay, I'm going to say Backstreet Boys. And I do have a Backstreet Boys CD behind me. So
Wow.
yeah, I do have it. It might still be in the plastic. I don't know, but I do have it. I know. But, I grew up with New Kids on the Block and Boys to Men. So
Excuse me. Okay, what is a song that you wish you had written?
I don't know if I could pick one song I wish I had written. There are so many jazz songs, so many jazz ballads that I get to the end of them and I'm just like, Lord Almighty, like so beautiful, sometimes really complex, sometimes really simple. I don't know if I could pick one song. I'll tell you, okay, I can't pick one song, but I can tell you, I think I wish I could write lyrics like a Johnny Mercer. I think Johnny Mercer's lyrics are just stunning, so that's about as close as of an answer as I can get.
So I know you like to shop. So what's your favorite thing to splurge on?
Oh, handbags, purses. Yes. Yes, I like my purses and they're getting more expensive as the years go by. You can ask Sean that. But I call them their investment pieces. That's what I tell them. This is an investment.
You're gonna use them.
That's right. It's not frivolous. I'll have it for the rest of my life. So.
Okay, finish these lyrics. Or you can just tell me the name of the song.
You're really putting me on the spot. Okay.
I'm sorry. Okay. I don't want another heartbreak. I don't need another turn to cry. What song is this?
I think I know this, but I don't know it.
You do know it. You sing it.
Oh. Can you give me a few more lyrics?
Hold on.
Another heartbreak. I don't need another. Oh, This Kiss by Faith Hill.
Yeah.
Damn.
Okay.
I figured you were going to do that. I figured you were going to look at some of the old country videos online.
Okay. Favorite vacation.
Oh, okay. Probably Hawaii. Sean and I went to Hawaii a couple of years ago, and it was so incredibly beautiful. And yeah, that was one of those vacations where you were almost in tears when you came back because you were like, "This place is so beautiful. I don't want to go back." Yeah, I would say Hawaii.
Okay, so where did the phrase groovy come from, and who popularized it?
Well,
last question.
Last question. Well, you mean where did I get it from, or is from me?
Where did you get it from, and who popularized it?
Oh, okay, I got it. I have no idea where I got it from, Carlia. I didn't even realize I was saying it until you started saying it back to me, and then I started thinking, I am saying this word more, and I don't even realize I'm saying it, and I'm saying it like a question, like groovy. Do you understand? I have no idea how that happened or where that came from, but I will say that you popularized it for sure.
Thank you, Dr.
You're very welcome.
Dr. Purcell, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. This was so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, Dr. P. So thank you, everyone, for watching another Music is Unity Artist Series, and give it up for Dr. Darden Purcell. I hear you. Oh, thanks, Mom.
Oh, and give it up for Carlia Swanson.
Oh, thank
you.
I'll see you later.
Okay, bye. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Carlia.